morning, hello, or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. Welcome to our webinar series at Be Strong Family, Staying Strong and Positive for Ourselves and Our Children. Come on in and join us. Invite your friends. If you have anybody that you want us to hear this amazing presentation we have for you today, welcome. Please let us know in the chat where you're from. My name is Lori Sanchez, and I will be your Cafe co-host today. I am in sunny Texas, West Texas, so it's super hot here. Hi, Amani, welcome. Welcome from South Carolina. I've never been.
Me neither.
One of these days. Come on in, everybody, and join us. We have an amazing presentation for you today. Our guest today is Stephanie Ceja, and she is joining us from Sunny, California. Andrew says that he stopped in South Carolina for an hour on a layover. It's a great airport.
Well,
it makes a difference if you land in a good airport.
5 stars, fully recommend.
Especially if the food court is someplace close by. If you have to go to another concourse, forget it. That's just, ugh. I know if you've ever come to Texas, Houston has an airport that they literally have an in-airport shuttle so you can get to places. That is not a fun airport. But if you have time to spend and shop, you know, that's a good place. Andrew. Flying high emotionally after that visit. Layovers are fun, especially nowadays. Flying is like you're playing your luck there. Yvonne Bray, McKeesport, Pennsylvania. Oh, that sounds like a cool name, McKeesport. Alrighty. We are live on YouTube, so if you want to send the link, invite your friends. We're live streaming on YouTube. You can join us on there. If you want to come on here, you can join us with the chat and comment, and you can always watch our series of webinars that are archived there, and you can invite people to watch this one. All right, next slide, please. Andrew, let's forge ahead. All right, if this is your first time joining us, there are several ways to engage. When you're ready to speak, please raise your hand using your little emoticons on your toolbar, and we'll ask for you to unmute yourself, and Andrew will open up the mic. Feel free to type your comments in the group chat and make sure that it's noted to everyone, because if you don't put to everyone, then the only people that can see your chat will be myself and Andrew and Stephanie. And just please be patient with us. I'm gonna try and read all of the chat and comments as we go along, but I expect that they're going to flow by so fast that I'm not going to have time to read them all. So just please be patient, and I'll try and scroll through them all. And if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. We have a few agreements here as a part of our Be Strong Families protocol, and that is to speak from your own experience using I statements. I in my life, or I in my experience, or this is what I believe. We are not here to represent anybody but ourselves, because our story is the most important one. Follow the golden rule. Treat other people the way you would want to be treated. And that is with kindness and respect. And we ask also for your full presence. Please, no multitasking. In the era of virtual reality, which we have all lived in for the past few years, it is super duper easy to be doing a million things at once and be online on your phone and doing other things. But because this is just 1 hour that we ask you to gift yourself, that we can have this conversation and really immerse ourselves and learn something, meet some new people, and hear Stephanie's story, because I think you're going to be amazed. It's a great story. And if you need a minute, please take a minute. We'll be here. You can step away and then come back and join us. We'll be here whenever you're ready to rejoin us. So if you agree to these agreements, please put I agree in the chat, like some of the people are doing already, and we'll move on. Welcome, Victoria. All right. Today's presentation is A Parent's Journey. The Life of a Dreamer, and our special guest is Stephanie Ceja. I've had the pleasure of knowing Stephanie for a little bit now. She is part of our National Parent Cafe leadership team. And as I said, she is in California. She's a parent of 3 children, and she is very active in our parent cafes, not just virtually online with us here at Be Strong Families, but she also does work in person in her home state of California, where she works with Catholic Charities. And she has a few really amazing and interesting hobbies that she's beginning to rediscover. So we're going to talk about all that. So Stephanie, if you want to say hello and say a little bit about yourself, and we'll move on.
Well, hello, everyone. As Lori mentioned, my name is Stephanie Ceja Gonzalez. And I was thinking, to be honest, I'm really nervous, but I like to say that because it lets you know that I really take this seriously, and I also really care for to share my story. And it's something that I did want to do earlier in the year, but a lot of things happened at home and my family. So, but I want to take you a little bit to the beginning so you can understand my journey a little bit better. I was born in Baja California Norte, Tecate, in Mexico. And Tecate is a really small city. We call it, it's already been established as a pueblo mágico, which is a magic town. It's a title that they give to really small towns that have the population of a city, but they have made it to just keep the magic and the nature and the resources. It's not like it's very green and very a lot of nature. So that's where I come from. I'm 29 years old. As Lori said, I have 3 kids. But I want to share a little bit of how I came to be who I am today. And everything started when I was born, and then I was raised by basically a single mom. My dad left our home when I was 2.5. So it was more like my mom decided she was done with it, and she had given my father enough opportunities to make his family a priority and make me a priority. So she just decided it was time for us to go apart, and she said, you still have your daughter. Stephanie will always be your daughter, but we are not together anymore. And that was, I think, a very big part of why I am who I am today, because then I was raised by my very, very strong women in my family, and I also had some influences of my uncles. My grandpa was a very important part of my life. One of my uncles who raised me and my grandpa passed away last year within a few months of each other. That was tough. But I still have my grandma and my uncles, and just a beautiful family in Mexico, mostly. And my mom remarried to my stepdad, who also passed away a few months ago. They had my brothers. One of them is still living, and he's my love, and my baby brother. He's 5 years younger than me. And I just grew up knowing that family and learning that family is the most valuable thing you can have. And it doesn't matter if it's blood or not, but family is the people who love you, the people who you love and who are there for you through the best and the worst. And I grew up at my grandma's house mostly. That was my safe place. I remember being a little girl, but I had really big dreams. And that's one of the things that inspired the title of my journey, because I was always very artistic. I loved to be in front of people and just, which is really, really funny because I was really shy, and I'm still a little shy, but I was very, very shy. But when I was on stage, it was like something just clicked, and I loved singing. I was part of the state's choir, and I received a lot of support from my family through everything that I decided to start, and everything that I decided to try. I was thinking about all of the things that I did in Mexico and the things that I did here, and like I tried a lot of things to find my path and my what I liked. So I remember my grandma. She's the love of my life, and she once just saved a little bit of money and once came home with I don't know if you remember if they even exist still, but she had it was luggage, but it was like a bag, and it was long, so you can put your robes or your costumes or whatever if you are traveling or you have a nice suit or just nice clothes, and then it folds and it prevents it from wrinkling. And she went out and she spent the money that she saved on that, and she said, I know you're gonna go places with this bag. And that just to this day she still has it. I don't use it, it's in Mexico, but she still has it because she knows how important it was for me. And also I grew up in Mexico with a big familia, a big family, like Dia de los Muertos and like Navidad, like Christmas. It was a big deal. I remember that as soon as someone entered the home, it was like from the door inside, it was all a place to sleep. Like you didn't, sometimes you couldn't even like put your foot on the floor without stepping on someone, because it was packed with family, and I loved it. We had so many cousins coming from Mexicali, from other parts, which is it's like 2 hours away, but it was just magic to me. I remember like the grown-ups having their own thing and the kids playing. A cousin of mine and I used singing our lungs out in front of the mirror. And you remember that show Sister Sister? Oh, that was my favorite show ever. And we would just pretend we were the sisters, the twins, and it was just so much fun. I also grew up with my 3 cousins and my brother. So because their dad immigrated to the U.S. and they were left with my grandma. So anyway, so that's basically what my life was before coming to the U.S. And I was 9 when my stepdad came to the U.S. and she left my mom, my brother, and I in Mexico, and we would come and visit. We would come during the summer, during Christmas, things like that. Sometimes I would stay behind because I didn't have a great relationship with him, and I would rather stay with my cousins and have all of these memories with them and with my grandma. But one day I remember I was 13, and we came to visit for summer. And I just like every time I just said goodbye to my grandma, to my cousins. I had a boyfriend at the time. So it was my first boyfriend, so it was a big deal. And he said, okay, I'll see you after summer is over. And I came here, and I think a couple of weeks before we were supposed to go back, my mom told me we are staying. We're not going back to Mexico. And my first thought was my grandma, because she, as I said, she's the most important person in my life at that point. That she was the person who I looked up to the most and I felt the most loved by. So that was the first thing. And also my boyfriend, my pet. It was just everything shattering and like just I guess coming apart in front of my eyes, and I couldn't do anything about it because I was 13 and it wasn't a decision that I made. And I was really scared too. I was scared because I didn't know the language. I had taken English classes because we are right on the borderland, and it's pretty usual for some kids to come to school here, and also pretty normal to have English lessons. And at la secundaria, which is kind of like no, it's not, it's middle school.
High school.
Middle
High
school, right?
High
Yeah.
school.
It's like fifth grade. It was no, never mind. It was seventh grade. So I had English for 1 year. That was but it was, we didn't do anything. I just learned how to say the colors and a few, like maybe count 1 to 10, and that's it. Because English, that's one thing about Mexico. Like everything you want to know besides the basic school, you have to pay for, and we didn't have the money to do that because my stepdad would send money, but because my uncle wasn't very responsible with my cousins, my mom would spread the money into five kids, five different, well, school fees and school uniforms instead of 2, which was the ideal. So we had enough, but we didn't have an abundance or leftovers, or like it was enough. And well, when we came here, I was faced with that language barrier. That was the very first thing that worried me because I didn't speak a word of English, and I came to school the first day I remember, and I was so worried that my teachers would understand me because I took academics really seriously and I really liked school. And I remember walking into the class and I heard my teacher speak English, and I was like, I can't do it. I was about to run, but then she told me, "Oh, bienvenida," and then she started speaking Spanish with an accent that I didn't know because I wasn't around other cultures or people from other countries at the time. But she was from Peru, and I remember sitting next to this girl, and then I discovered it was an ESL class, so it was good because I had people who spoke Spanish, but it was definitely a challenge. And I think those were maybe the main challenges: the leaving my family behind, my grandma behind, and then also the language and the culture. It was very different in some ways. I found myself with a lot more liberty and freedom in a lot of ways because my mom used to be a very involved parent, but suddenly she had to start working, and so she wasn't there a lot anymore, and it was hard. So also, but there also has been some really great opportunities for me, and some of us, some of them is being exposed to so many cultures. Like I said, I don't think I've ever tried food outside from Mexican food and like burgers and Chinese, because Tijuana is very known because of their Chinese food for some reason. I don't know why, but there's a big Chinese population. But I was exposed to languages and different cultures and different ways of seeing things, and I feel like that is one of the most beautiful things about this country that I love so much. And I also kind of was forced to learn a new language because, as I said, I was really into my academics. I wanted to do really well. So I stayed 1 year in ESL, which was my 8th grade. I went to high school and I took 1 semester of ESL. And then the next one, they told me, do you want to go to regular classes? I think we think you're ready. And I said, okay. And I did that. And I was always very quiet in my class, but as time progressed, I was better. Also, another opportunity is that I discovered theater. I had been in a choir before, and I have seen like music presentations and other presentations like that, but I hadn't been part of them. And just getting into theater was like my lifesaver, because at this point I started to have a really unsafe environment at home, with my stepdad, and theater and basketball were my two ways to just focus on something else. And I was that was the way I coped my emotions and with what I was going through. About basketball, I don't play basketball anymore, but I am pretty tall, so that was the only reason why I came into basketball, because I'm 6 feet. So as soon as the coach saw me when I was a freshman, he was like, "You should try out for basketball." But I was just like, I have no idea what that is, because that doesn't happen in Mexico, or and so it was until my sophomore year that I tried out, and I made it to JV. I think it was because of my height, mostly because it was like a intimidating card to use. But then as soon as they found out that I wasn't pretty good at it, they would just put me in the bench, which I was totally okay with, because I wasn't good at basketball. Not my calling. But yeah, so that's how I went through this time, and how I kind of coped. And something else that I'm really grateful for is how much I have learned about myself, and that's mostly recently. So I don't know how, maybe we can, do you want me to talk a little bit about
I do have one question for you, because I think it's really important to go back to it. I know when we first talked about your presentation today, I was fascinated with how you came here, because it wasn't your choice, and it wasn't planned. It was a total shock to you. So I think everyone would like to hear about, how did you come to terms with you having to change? Because I know we talked about you were just going to start high school, and you had a boyfriend, and you had this idea of what your future was going to be, and you were going to start working towards that. All of a sudden you come for summer vacation, and that's completely taken away from you, and you have no power to change it. So how did you come to terms with positively facing a new future and changing everything that you had planned? How did you do that? And did you have to plan a different future and say, okay, I can't do that anymore, I'm gonna have to do this?
I don't think thank you. I think that's a great question, but I don't think I changed much in that moment of what I wanted to do. I'm the kind of person who likes to be informed, and who likes to have all of the information before for me to feel safe. I don't like surprises. But I think what really helped me is that I had a lot of talks with my grandma, and she told me, like, Mija, it's for you, it's for the best. And something I felt like was really upsetting me is that I think the decision to stay here was mostly based on my mom and my stepdad having a rocky relationship. So that made me feel even more angry, and like, why do I have to pay for you not knowing how to figure things out without, But I think what I did was definitely talk to my grandma and find the things that I could control, like focusing on school and on learning. And I remember my mom would take me to school. I would take like extra classes. I would be at middle school. I would be there at 7 because I wanted to be at 7, and I would take like a class before school, and then I would stay after school so I could get that information or that education that I needed for me to continue on the path that I wanted, because I really knew that I thought I knew what I wanted, or like I knew what I wanted. It didn't come out the way I wanted it, but I think that was the way I proceeded to do that.
Who do you think you would be? Who would Stephanie be today if you had not come to the US? If you had stayed in Mexico, how do you think you would be different?
When I was in Mexico and growing up, I looked up to my aunt a lot. I forgot to mention her, but my aunt was a big part of my life. She was pretty much my mom's support economically, and she would spoil me as much as my mom would let her. And I looked up to her so much, and she never got married. To this day, she has never gotten married, and I think she's like close to her 60s now. And she doesn't have any kids. She adopted one of my cousins, the one who lived in Mexico with us. And she has a career. She's a career woman. She's a CEO of a company. She's so great. I wanted that life. That was the life I wanted. So I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids, and I wanted to have my own house, like maybe start a company or something. That was a big goal of mine. And I think probably being in Mexico would have made me stay a little bit more focused. To be honest, I think I would have been more focused if I had been stayed back.
What would you tell yourself, your teenage self? What would you say to her now, the person that you are, and your Stephanie, teenager, 13, is now confronted with all of these changes? What would you say to her?
I think I would say it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to say that. You don't have to just be angry within yourself and just take everything and say yes, because I'm still working on and saying no when I can't. And it pains me sometimes because it's things that I love. Like when I cannot do a cafe, it pains me, to be honest. But I've learning, and I'm like, if I even think, okay, I have to move this and I have to move that and I have to call this person, like if I have to go through all of that, I think I can say no. And if it's really important, then I probably would say, okay, I'll try my best. But I think that's what I would say. Like, it's okay to not be the perfect little girl who just takes in, you swallows all of her feelings, and because it will explode. And when it does, you will make a big decision, which for me was I left my home when I was 17. And I don't regret it because it made me the person who I am, and it made me very likely have the kids that I have now and my partner. But I do think if I had talked sooner, or if I had done things or expressed my feelings sooner, I would have been on the path that I wanted when I was young.
Different path. Different path than you are now. Well, Amani says in the chat, she says, "I'm glad you are here. Otherwise, we may not have met."
Met. I know. it's everything happens for a reason, and I think I'm not grateful that I got to be that my mom made the decision to stay, because as
Mom
I
made that
said,
for you. Right?
what is it?
Your mom made that decision for you.
Yeah,
Okay,
my mom made the decision to stay and take us with her, because I've also thought about what if she had come here but she had left us behind and
no,
or
something
left
different.
me behind. And I've played those scenarios in my head. And as I said, I love my family now. I just now think that if I could have the decision, I would have the same kids and the same order, everything, even they're so close in age and everything, but I would have them in my 30s instead of my 20s, because right now I'm 29 and I already have my 3 kids. And it feels nice in a way, because like, not that I'm done, because I know it only gets harder from here, but in a way it feels nice to be experiencing life with them. But I would have liked to find myself before I became a mom, like find who I am, because right now I am finding myself in a lot of ways, and touching a little bit on the opportunities that this country really brings, is how much you can really speak up and how much help you receive. You know, that concrete support, it's always here. You just have to look for it. Really, it's amazing. Because if I have an autistic child, my oldest is autistic, and she's 8, and she would not be receiving the help that she's receiving here in Mexico, you know, and I wouldn't have the terms of that I have here, and I wouldn't have Catholic Charities, I wouldn't have Be Strong Families, probably I would never heard of them, of you. And like Amani said, we would have never met. And she says met because we've
We've
been
never actually met.
in Zoom, but you know, it will happen one day. I pray. And I think also my way of seeing mental health, I'm seeing myself, I would have probably taken longer to really be confident with myself, because like I said, I am really tall, and that was a big uh, I don't know, like a rock I had to carry for a long time, because I remember the very first time that I felt self-conscious about my height and my weight was when I was 6 in Mexico, when my PE teacher made a comment about me too tall and that I was basically a giant for my age. And I was 6 and he has no idea that those words were so easy for him to say. And now I see a community here, and I see people who are of all different, you know, colors and sizes, and it's so beautiful to you see that. And it's been doing great for my mental health. And also I received the help I needed when I found out I have been living with depression my whole life and I didn't even know. I had a really big episode of depression when I was 9, and my dad passed away, my biological dad. I had just re-met him, and he passed away. So and I joke with my mom, but it's one of those things, like, you joke, like I feel bad afterwards, but I told her, you put my brother into therapy, but you never put me in therapy when I went through all of this. And she now knows, and she sees a lot of things. She's learned a lot too. And I mean, we each have our own journey, but I probably never would I would have never found out I had depression. Or also, I'm right now in the process of being diagnosed with ADHD. I mean, it's pretty obvious too that I have ADHD, but we didn't know. My mom didn't know. And having been in Mexico, I don't know if I had found out, or if would have taken me longer to find out. I mean, it's a lot. This past 3 years have been used rediscovering me, and I think a big part of it was that I found Parent Cafés. Parent Cafés, 2020 was a rough year for humanity. But for Stephanie as a person, it was sad. It was a sad year in a lot of ways, but it was also a lot of time to myself and to really reflect on who I am. And I was able to come to peace with a lot of me that I had hidden for a long time. Like I came out to my mom and my brother and my husband, and that was big for me. I had known for my whole life, but when I moved here, I was 14 when I started going to church. And I don't judge any, like, that's everyone's religion is their own decision or their beliefs. Awesome, as long as you don't hurt anyone, I am okay with it, or you don't hurt yourself. But I do feel like, for me, it made me feel ashamed of who I am for a long time, and just being free to say I am this, and I'm Stephanie, and I'm a mom, I'm a wife, but I'm also a strong woman. I am a leader, and I am a performer, and I have so many things to give to the world. And it's just that the purposes of the cafe, one of them is finding your own voice, the ones I don't think it's in the book anymore, but it was 5 before, or I was at it, I don't know, but I don't remember. But finding your own voice, for me, that was big. That was a big one, and it definitely came with the protective factors as well. It was, those two have been so helpful. I don't know how to explain it.
You're right. You're amazing, because we've seen that time and again during cafes, that people discover. I know for me, that was a fact, that I was able to come to terms with some things that you discovered during the cafe, that I discovered during the cafe. And it's an amazing experience. I hope that everybody can find that through Parent Cafés, because sometimes we deal with conversations and things that we don't want to talk about, even to ourselves. And I'm first generation American. I'm the child of immigrant parents. So I'm the first in my family to grow up here in the United States. My sister was born in Mexico, and I'm the middle child. So I was the first child born here in the US. And for me, the experience was very different. It was, I hadn't thought about it until I started here at Be Strong Families. And we were talking about how culture matters in our lives, and how it plays a role in our lives, and the person that we've become and the person that we are. And I had finally voiced how different my life would be if my parents had decided to stay in Mexico. And I thought about that because my cousins are very different. I didn't grow up with family around me. And so I would always ask my cousins, what's Christmas like for you guys? What do you do during the summers? My cousin, when we would go on summers, it was all of a sudden, all of my cousins would play out in the streets. All of my aunts and uncles would get together at night. We would go to the placita for walks every single night with my uncle when he would take his break from work. And I would go to summer, I guess here they would call it a summer camp, but over there, some talleres, when like the embroidery classes and different arts and crafts that you would do during the summer of stuff that you learn. And so I would do that with my cousins. That wouldn't have happened here in the US. So I was very lucky to have both, but I would have been a very different person. I wouldn't have gone to college, because when I decided to go to college, and then I decided to go to college out of my home city, my grandmother didn't understand that. And so I've always felt like I had to be explaining myself to my Mexican family, because they lived a different life. And you as a parent, and you're being an immigrant yourself, an immigrant child, what is it like now, you raising first generation Americans? How is that for you?
It is, I want to go back to a friend of mine. asking me recently, what do I love the most about being a mom? And I said, I think it took me a minute because I really wanted to make sure I capture it, because she doesn't have any kids. And I told her, I think it is that you have the power to take those mistakes that you feel like maybe your parents made, and just turn it around and try to be better as much as you can. Like, I know my mom and our parents did good with the information they had. So now I have more information. I want to have the family that I never had, because to be honest, I never had my dad. I never had a super close relationship with my mom until now. I think we're pretty close now. And she was really surprised, because she said, that's usually the answer I get, but the opposite of why people don't want to have kids, because they had so much struggles, or they remember the bad things and they don't want to repeat those. And I said, yeah, I do remember the bad things, but I don't want to, like, I have the power to try and do better. And I do feel confident, like I'm doing a little bit better. So about raising a first generation Americans, I think it's a big, I don't want to say a big deal. It's more like what do you say?
Big responsibility.
Big responsibility, exactly. It's a big responsibility because first, they're representing my culture, and there's many people who still believe that immigrants come here to do not so great things, like steal jobs and do, like they're robbers and they're like all of those negative things. And I want them to grow up to know that they can be whoever they want to be, and just try their best and be their best selves. But also know of the I can find the word. Also know of the privilege they have, because especially my boy, I was talking about this in a cafe the other day. My boy is the one that has like lighter skin, and it's a boy. So I want my kids to use the privilege of having a boy being raised in the US to help other people and to grow up to be people with values and who love their culture and who understand that just by being born here, it doesn't make them better, but it does give them some privilege that maybe other kids, when they grow up, they will have classmates or maybe I don't know, people around them who don't have that privilege, because I do feel like it's something that I didn't think about until recently. It does make things easier, a little bit easier for you, and I want them to be conscious of how they use that power and their voice and their opportunity to have a say in things, like when they have the age to vote, and if they decide to maybe pursue a career that involves them with other people, or making decisions like law decisions. I think that's the responsibility part as of an immigrant, but I also want them to know that whatever, my family is pretty open, to be honest. Like most of the people who I care about, like I heard, only care about the criticism from people who you would take advice from, and the only people I would take advice from, I do take criticism from, and I would just tell them, live your life as long as you are not hurting anyone or hurting yourself, And I just want them to have that safe space. Like, like I have my grandma's house that I was so worried. It sounds so bad, but I was telling him, Abuela, please, whoever you leave the house to, please be someone who won't sell it, because that's like our safe haven for a lot of our family. My grandma raised, when she got married, my grandpa was 20 years older. He had two kids, and then she got pregnant right away, and then her mom passed away, and she took care of 5 of her siblings. So she had a full house within the first 5 months of marriage, and it was really tough. So that's our safe place. I always call it our safe haven, because everyone goes back to there. If we need a place to stay, like if my uncles or my mom, when she separated from my dad, she went back there. And I think everyone just goes back there, and I want them to find that not in the walls, but in me. Like they come to me and they know that, yes, we do have agreements, rules, values, but at the same time, I don't want them to be who I want them to be. I want them to find themselves and explore and live and be happy and just be good kids. That's all I want. So, but it is a big responsibility, in my opinion.
I think that's a great thing to want for your kids. Yvonne says, great foundation of thought for your children, especially boys. Embrace your culture. I have a question about that. How do you continue to give your children for them to grow up and live within their culture, being here in the United States?
I think I have been not the greatest at it. I was really good at the first years. Definitely Spanish is spoken at my home most. It used to be only Spanish. That was my plan. But my oldest daughter, like I said, she's autistic, and Spanish verbs are a little hard for her. So again, I had to be resilient, strong and flexible, and I had to move a few things and be okay. If you cannot say it in Spanish, you can say it in English, and then we can find a way to say it in Spanish if it's easier. I mean, she has a speech delay, a pretty severe speech delay and language delay. So I don't want her to get frustrated because she cannot speak to me. So that's a big part of the language. I want them to be able to read and to speak and understand and read everything in Spanish. My brother and I can do all of those things. My brother was 8 when he came here, and he can speak and everything fluently. So that's what I want to do, first thing. And second thing is, right now, because I've been more conscious of, we don't really do a lot of things that we used to do in Mexico. Like, for example, Dia de los Muertos, it was a big deal in Mexico. And I remember, like I said, my cousins coming and everyone going to the cemetery and bringing the flowers and bringing the food and cleaning the tombstones, and everything was a big deal. And here, well, first of all, we don't have a lot of family here that's passed away, thank God, in a way. But we don't have that much opportunity to do that. But I do want to expose them to like theater or art, and also I try to call my in-laws and my grandma as much as possible, so they know who their relatives are. When they come to visit, they can make those connections. Oh, it's this person I've been talking to the phone a lot. And yeah, so I think those are the little ways that I try to keep my culture. Also the food, we do a lot of food. My mom is a great cook, so my little one, my 4-year-old, she eats everything. Like she will try everything, and she loves everything. So she will eat tamales, pozole, like and she loves everything. She will try everything. My middle son is the pickiest. And he will be like, no, thank you. Or she would take a bite, and he would take a bite and say, oh, no, thank you. And my oldest is like, okay, I'll finish the plate, but don't give me any more because I'm not interested. So there's a lot of ways. Also, having friends who have kind of similar values to us, who like family and just being together. That's a thing that's a big part. Just knowing that, like I said, familia and family is not just blood. It's more like the relationship and the love. And yeah, that's and oh, one big thing is that I am teaching them to really to saludar, like we said, like we saying hi properly, like Mexican properly.
You cannot leave a place without saying goodbye to everybody.
And that's a big thing because like they make you on my dad's side of the family, because I did grow up seeing them. They do the two kisses on each cheek, like one and one. And right now with COVID, we cannot do that. Like I do that, but right now we can't. And I don't want my kids also to feel like they have to, because I remember there were some relatives that I didn't want to kiss on both cheeks. Like I don't know them and I didn't feel comfortable. So, but I do want them to learn to make eye contact and say buenos dias. Like whenever we go on walks, I would be like saying buenos dias, buenos tardes. Like, and my kids would mimic that, especially I think the little one is like, she's ready to go to Mexico. She will enjoy it so much, because she loves it, and she would just be saying hi to everyone. And I think that's a big part of our culture. Just you act like you know everyone and just make that eye contact and acknowledge their existence, because that was a big culture shock here. Like no one says hi when you don't know them. that was another culture shock for sure.
It is very different. In Mexico, you talk to everybody. If you're in the, and I have a habit of doing that. I wasn't raised in Mexico, but again, I was raised by very strong women. My grandmother was a big part of my life. And so I still have that habit of going into a store and I talk to everybody. And my son is like, do you know them? I'm like, no. It's part of who you are. And I think that's really important. And it's great that you're still giving your children that opportunity. Food is, of course, number one, because I know Amani lives for Taco Tuesdays.
Taco Tuesdays.
I don't know how we're going to get him to South Carolina, but somehow we're going to.
Amani, you have to go to Tijuana to try tacos. Once you go there and you try tacos, your life will change forever. Don't ask me what they're made of, but they are so good. And it's just, and I will have to go to South Carolina, because if people are, I don't know if it's a California thing, but I don't think so, because Lori says the same thing in Texas. And it also depends on I think the neighborhood. Like right now I am in a very Latino community, Latinx community. So it's a little, you find like the abuelitos, the old man, like here, like doing their gardening, and then with their hats and on and everything, and they used to like buenos dias, and now I'm like buenos dias. And it reminds me of my grandpa, which is really, really sweet. And yeah, that's I'm liking that, the walks with my kids around the neighborhood.
You've had an amazing journey. So to close this out, I want to ask you one last question, and that is about your new dream. You said you're starting to rediscover yourself and you're on this journey. Did your dream change? Are you happy with it? How are you going to make your dream come true?
I think my new dream is, I shared it before, and I don't want to cry. I told you if I cry, yes. I'll ugly cry. But my new goal is to become the love of my life and be that person who I I am a little bit to become a little selfish in some ways. Think about myself. My husband doesn't quite fully understand this, but I tell him that I have to be okay to help others be okay. And my happiness needs to come from me, within me, not from others. And I think I will start doing things because I love them. And if I won't be afraid to close cycles and step away from relationships that don't serve me anymore, or that I'm not serving anymore like they deserve. So I think my new dream is to become the love of my life and just live the present and invest in memories and invest in experiences rather than materialistic things. Of course, I do want to own my own house because that would be amazing, but just enjoy life in general. As I said, I'm back in theater now, and that just immediately puts a smile on my face because that's a big part of me, and it just makes me happy. I don't even care if I have one line or if I have no lines or if I have at this point I just love the community. Like when I go there, I feel like I belong, and it's amazing to just do what you love. And my husband says, and you're getting paid for what you love, and I'm like, yes, which is the best part. I mean, you're doing things you love, and then you it's a plus. It's not the best part, it's a plus. Yeah, so that's my new life motto, and it was summarized perfectly as that phrase, that become the love of your life, by someone in the theater recently, actually, because I was talking to her and she just said, well, you're basically telling me you want to become the love of your life, the one you pay more attention to, the one you buy gifts for, the one you take care of the most and you're worried about the most. And I'm like, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Yes, as a parent, we always say you have to take care of yourself before you can turn around and take care of somebody else. Mm-hmm. And it's a great discovery through the Parent Cafés. And I say we have a lot of comments in the chat saying, of course, Amani says she wants to come for the fresh agave in Tijuana. And she says that people in South Carolina talk to everyone. Sandra Molano says, so true, Stephanie. And Amani says that is an amazing goal. And I agree. And thank you for sharing all of that with us. Guess what? You're done.
I know.
Please answer the poll that you see in front of you. Let us know how we did today. Let us know what you liked about it, and so we can bring you some more. And please add in the chat hashtag amplify the love of your life, which is Stephanie's hashtag amplify become the love of your life. We have amplify happiness from me, not from others. Amplify get Amani fresh agave. Amplify Taco Tuesday.
This comes from tequila. You're talking about tequila because that's another story. To be honest, I didn't have my first shot until I turned 29. I don't know if that's a crime or what, but no, I didn't.
It will be very interesting when the national team gets together, because Amani says she loves tequila. Can't have margaritas without it, Amani. It's a staple. Well, thank you. Please add in the chat what your amplify is, so you can live your best life. And please join us for a taste of cafe on Friday. Amani and other people like Stephanie will be joining our team for I Got Your Back. It is a Recovering Together cafe. We are there every single Friday for a taste of cafe. This is not recorded because it is an interactive cafe, so you get to come and experience a cafe for yourself. It is every Friday at 12 p.m. Central Time. So for those of you who are in other parts of the country, if you're on the East Coast like Amani, it will be at 1 o'clock your time. If you're in Chicago or most of Texas, it will be at 12 noon. If you're in the Denver area or on the west part of Texas, like I am, it will be at 11 in the morning. And if you're sitting with Stephanie in sunny California, it will be at 10 in the morning. But please join us. You can register on our website at bestrongfamilies.org, and you can also just use your phone and take a picture of that QR code, and you can register for Friday. We hope to see you there. Thank you, Yvonne. You have a great day too. So here you can register. We have lots of webinars and cafes and other things at bestrongfamilies.org/webinars. We do offer certificates for anybody who needs them. If you need some information for your job to let them know that you're getting some professional development through Be Strong Families webinars. If you want to invite your friends, your families to join us and they need a certificate to be able to join us, you can have that. You can just click on this QR code and get that as well. Next, Andrew. And please, if you need any Parent Cafe supplies, or if you'd like to buy some stuff for gifts, the shopping season is starting soon. If you want to get your Christmas shopping out of the way, there's some great materials on our Be Strong Families shop. There is the Amplify calendar. There's some games and gifts. And of course, if you need materials for your parent cafes, we have all the supplies you would need there. And you can just visit bestrongfamilies.org to shop for anything you need. Join us on YouTube if you want to look at some of our archived webinars. Stephanie is on there, will be on there, and there are several others on there. If you have any information, yes, Yvonne, we will send you an attendance certificate. Andrew will make note of that. And if anyone else needs one, please let us know. Andrew popped in the chat what you need, where you need to go for that. So if you'll just contact that in the chat and we'll send you what you need. Thank you all for being here today. We hope you have a great weekend. And we hope to see you on Friday for our Taste of Cafes. Don't forget to join us. Stephanie, mil gracias de todo corazón. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It was very brave. It was a beautiful story. And I hope that everyone got as much out of it that I did. It was great reliving those memories with you. And I thank you for sharing.